And England has the worst underage drinking rates in the world, with middle-class parents to blame. The World Health Organization found that half of 13-year-olds in England have had alcohol, with young girls more likely to have tried it. And shockingly, 35% of 11-year-olds in England have drunk alcohol, compared to just 21% in France, 18% in Germany, 17% in Italy, and a meagre 16% in Scotland. The study also found that children from wealthy households are the most likely to drink, with experts warning that they mirror the behaviour of affluent parents who indulge in a frequent tipple. Joining me live is Professor Sir Ian Gilmore, Chair of Alcohol Health Alliance UK, and Sue Atkins, a parenting expert and former head teacher. Ian, traditionally on the continent, I was always led to believe that kids are given a little bit of wine at meals sometimes. How is it possible now that in England we're beating them?
Well, I think one of the problems is we've tried to mirror France. I think, the well-off like the idea of introducing their children to alcohol early, but in fact, all the evidence is to the contrary. The earlier, the younger children start to drink, the more likely they are to have alcohol problems in later life. And there are many different things in France. We can't just extrapolate what they do in France to this country. For example, there's a complete ban on broadcast advertising of alcohol in France. There's a complete ban on sports sponsorship by alcohol companies. They're a lot further down the line of firm regulation to control the harm from alcohol than this country is.
Well, Sue, this study says that England has the worst rates of young drinkers. I see it a different way. I see it as, finally, we're number one at something. We are number one in England, finally. Am I right?
No, of course not. That's just a clickbait, isn't it? It's worrying. It's worrying because actually, where are they getting that alcohol from if they're young? And 13-year-olds in particular, it says half of them have drunk alcohol. This is the sort of conversation that needs to start like the birds and the bees, not just one conversation. Children are watching, learning, listening to us all the time, right from when they're toddlers right the way up. So you need to have that kind of modelling that is balanced, and you talk about the dangers of it. When they're toddlers, you say it's like medicine and you don't drink it, and you don't make it casual, and you do try and talk and teach your children that it's very bad for them. Certainly the younger they are, the worse it is. And then you have to try and balance, trying to help them monitor it for themselves as they become adults.
Ian, there seems to be a split when it comes to the genders here. Girls are more likely to be drinking and getting drunk than boys. Why do you think that is?
I suspect it's quite simply the fact that girls are 2 years ahead of boys when it comes to reaching puberty and growing up. Oh. So I don't think there's anything more in it than that. We know overall women drink less than men. They get less problems with alcohol, even though they are catching up in some areas. But I just think it's the fact that girls grow up quicker than boys.
Now, I know we're talking about kids here, and of course, what I'm being told by the study is that kids who drink then are more likely to develop a problem with alcohol as they get older. But the top 10 countries in Europe that drink alcohol more than others, England aren't even in the top 10. You've got Czech Republic, Latvia, Moldova, Germany, Lithuania, Ireland, Spain, Bulgaria, Luxembourg and Romania. So is it really a problem that we should be focusing on? Or should we be looking at things like sugar in foods and drinks for kids, and buy one, get one free offers on artificial foods that kids are consuming?
I'm certainly not saying that this is more important than obesity, say, or smoking, but I think we need to tackle all of them. I think we need to get a much more proactive attitude towards preventing harm coming along. And I think when you said you were impressed that we were number one in something, that in a sense underlines the problem. There's still this aura of heroism around drinking. I've never heard anybody say so-and-so is a really good smoker, he can hold his fags. But with alcohol, it's inextricably linked with enjoyment, etc. This makes politicians very wary about doing anything that might alienate the public, even though actually the public are much more sensible than the governments give them credit for.
Sue, as the parenting expert and a former head teacher, shouldn't parents be parenting their kids? It doesn't matter how much adverts there are on TV and how much money the kid's got in the pocket. If a parent stops your kid from drinking, and actually parents, I know it's a crazy thing to say these days, but if a parent parents, won't they stop the kids from drinking?
Yes, I think parents in the last 20 years or so want to be their kids' friend rather than put in boundaries and be a bit unpopular with their kids. And we need to talk and teach children about all sorts of things. Vaping is a dangerous thing too, because it's all very colourful and watermelon and flavours like that. Same with Alco Pops. When my kids were growing up, you know, some parents had a different attitude than I did when they had parties. I didn't want my kids drinking Alco Pops, you know, so we talked and we used everything as a teachable moment, things in the news as well. And you have to talk and teach children over a period of time. And if you ban anything completely with them and you don't talk about it, then they're going to be even more curious about it. But we certainly do need to talk about it with our children, that alcohol can damage lives and it damages their brains when they're very young as well. I'm not a killjoy. I like a glass of wine on a Friday night, just like everybody else, but it's got to be in balance.
Okay. And Sir Ian, what would you like to see the government do?
Well, I think a good start would be advertising. We already have adverts, you know, within walking distance of schools advertising alcohol. We've got it on the television. We've got the queues around the football ground or any sporting event that the adverts are there. So it just normalizes drinking to children. And I think advertising is one of the big areas we could do better. The other is going to the other extreme. I think we need to improve services for those people who are already getting into trouble with alcohol. Services are woefully inadequate in the UK for people with alcohol problems. Hopefully they won't be as young as 13 or 15, but alcohol is the commonest cause of working lives lost in this country. It really is serious because people die between 30 and 50. And so many of these people have started very young.
So this isn't a British problem. This isn't the Welsh and the Scottish or the Northern Irish. This is the English. Now, if this is just something that's part of our culture, how can we really ever change that? That's going to take generations upon generations. I just can't see it happening. As Sir Ian said, JJ can hold his drink. No one says JJ is a really great smoker. What can we really do, in essence?
Well, I suppose like everything, you have to believe in change, and it is incremental. It's never a major thing overnight, but talking and teaching kids, trying to take away that idea of bravado and it's cool to drink. And, you know, teenagers in particular, they suffer from a lack of confidence. So sometimes, you know, when they're out and about, they will be experimenting and they will feel that gives them a boost of confidence. So talk about it with them and talk about how to say no without looking as if you're different to everybody else. And when you have parties, my kids used to have parties and stuff like that, we never left them on their own in there. You know, kids would come. Someone said to me, "Oh, you do know they're going to bring in vodka in that water bottle." I went, "Oh, okay." So we hung around. We didn't infringe on their sort of time, but we were around and we were sort of walking through and keeping an eye on them in a nice way so that they're not just left to their own devices, because that can be quite dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much to both of you, Professor Ian Gilmore and Sue Atkins.